Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We have been working on this partially destroyed Williams Jubilee pinball machine. It's an old electromechanical game. And we did a video where somebody had cut the neck off of the thing and cut all the wires in half. And then we did another video where we cleaned all in the bottom of it and adjusted all of the switches and the stepper units and everything and got it actually up and playing, but it has some weird issues going on. And I think today we're going to see if we can fix that lighting issue that we had on the last one, and then also work in this back box. So we're going to see what all we can get accomplished. So if you didn't see the previous video, why are you watching this one? You're all out of order. But in the previous video we did play it a little bit. And it has this weird thing where the general illumination lights don't work while you're playing, but this same player shoots again light is always on. When it goes off, all of the general illumination lights come on. So something weird going on. Now, we did splice together every cut wire in the back box. That connected the head to the bottom of the cabinet. So that's probably where our problem's going to be. But the play field actually plugs in separately. Like it has its own connectors and all of that. So there's some kind of weirdness going on with the lights, though. So I'm going to figure that out, and then we're going to work in this back box. So let's look back here. Here are our connectors. I'm wondering if it's something simple. Maybe I'll get lucky and I got something plugged in wrong. I don't appear to. But there's three Jones plugs here. Let me lighten it up for you. There's 3 Jones plugs here, and those are the ones that we splice the connectors on. So I'll pull them up where you can see them just a little bit. Look at all that. So we put heat shrink tubing on everything. All of these blue ones were already like that. I had nothing to do with that, people. Go back and watch the very first video we did. I used that as my defense. It was like that when I found it. But we've got it pretty far along. It's just the GI lights don't work. But like I said, they do work alternately with that same player scores again light. So I don't know what's going on with that. But we're going to have to track it down. Okay, and so we've got 16 score reels here that we have to clean. Yeah, that's right. I said 16 score reels here that we have to clean. That's going to take forever. We have a stepper unit here, which doesn't have its label anymore, but since it only has one coil, I'm going to say that's the 0 to 9 unit, or the match unit, or I don't know what they call it on this particular one. And then down here you've got what's probably the player unit or something, and then you have the coin or replay unit right here. So that's no big deal. And then you have some relays down here that need cleaned up. Lots of switches that need redone. So we'll get on that in a minute. So I think the first thing I'll do, though, is we're going to try to track down that lighting issue that's so weird. That's strange to me. Very, very strange. So I think we'll look at the schematics a little bit, and then we'll just manually track the wires that do the general illumination. There's got to be something screwed up somewhere where something's connected wrong, or I spliced the wrong 2 wires together, or something like that. So let me grab the schematics. So here are the schematics, and the lights are always a very simple circuit. So here is the transformer. So when it comes on, which is very simple, it plugs in. One line goes to one side of the transformer. The other line goes through a fuse, goes through a toggle switch, which is the on-off switch, and goes to the other side of the transformer. So on these particular games, whenever you turn them on, the switch just simply turns the transformer on. And then over on this side, you have your voltage for your lamps. So it's 6 volts, right? So the yellow wire is the common wire on all of the lights, but also on the switches and things that eventually make the coils work. So on all of your lights, you're going to have a yellow wire on one side, right? And there is no way to break that or anything. It just keeps going. Nothing turns that off or anything. Nothing interrupts it. Let me get this back on the table before we drop it. All right. And then the other side of the transformer that's sending it out comes over here to the lock relay in two different places. So when the lock relay is off, right, which is normal, the normal position of the lock relay is this switch is open. So that would kill the power going to the other side of the lights. If the lock relay pulls in, it should connect power to both of these fuses, which then do their thing, right? So we're looking at the insert display lights, or on this fuse here, right? See? And they are also connected to the playfield display lights, or are they? No, they are not. So the playfield display lights go over to this fuse. But you see when the lock relay is pulled in, there are two different switches, but it should light up both of those. So the only thing keeping these lights from turning on is this lock relay turning off. Right? Well, right now we've got the ones on the back glass. So if they're on, the ones on the playfield should be on. And the ones on the cabinet are also on. So the ones on the playfield should be on right now. So I guess the first thing we would look at is the lock relay, right? We got to see if that's connecting or if it should be turned on right now or what. So what makes the lock relay turn on? Let's go find it. You tell me when you see it. The lock relay. So the lock relay is always connected to one side of the transformer with a black wire through a fuse. Right? 240 volt. It ain't 240. 24 volt. 24 volt. That makes more sense. Okay, so one side's always connected to the transformer. Okay, and then the other side, the way it gets its power is either the 5-cent relay turns it on, the left flipper switch turns it on, a switch on the score motor at 5A turns it on. The lock relay can hold itself on, or the replay relay can turn it on. The replay relay, see how it's got the dash through it, saying that it's normally connected. Right? So any of these have to go through the kickoff switch. This one has to go through. Alright, so the replay relay. So that should have turned it on. Well, that's the coin lockout. Am I seeing this wrong? Yeah, I was looking at it wrong. So that replay relay can't turn it on. It's just the lock relay holds itself on if it's already been turned on. The motor, the 5-cent relay, or the left flipper switch. So what's going on here? The lock relay shouldn't be on yet. We just turned the game on. So when you turn it on, you shouldn't really get any lights at all. But yet you are. Okay. So something is making it come on. So let me pop up the playfield and we'll look at the lock relay and see if you've got a bad connection there or what in the world's making it trip when it shouldn't until I hit this left flipper switch. Well, that was easy to figure out. Somebody has permanently bent the switch that turns on the relay where it's always closed on the left flipper switch. So the way it's supposed to work is you press the flipper, it presses the flipper switch, and then that second switch also touches to turn on all the lights on the game if they're not on yet. But somebody's bent it so that it's always lit up as soon as you turn the game on. So I'm going to unbend that. Okay, so I've bent it back where it doesn't touch. So let's see what happens when we turn it on now. I've turned it on. Now we get no lights because the lock relay isn't on. But if I hit the left switch, turns on the lights. So that's more how it's supposed to be, but we still haven't addressed our playfield light problem. Okay, so let's find this lock relay. What do you think about that? So this is the lock relay. It is pulled in right now because we hit that button, and it is filthy, but the wires, the contacts are actually connecting. You see the fourth one has turned off. I'll bet whenever that goes the other way, it turns on the tilt relay or something. It turns on the game over relay or something. But the one that runs to the fuse that powers the playfield lights is pulled in. It's probably a situation too where if that, so you know, if this relay, if this switch isn't working, this one, so if that's not working, which lights these up, then none of these other lights would work either. You know, over here. Okay, so it's the same player shoots again light is always on, and the wire, it's hard to tell. If you haven't messed with a bunch of these, this will make no sense at all to you, but that wire is white with a green stripe. Now, it looks yellow with a black stripe. But if you look at it just right, it's white with a green stripe. Okay? So we're going to find that wire coming off the playfield and then see what it ultimately hooks to. So I track the wire back and it plugs into the Jones plug, and there's nothing wrong with anything, but so there's the white and green wire there. This is the ground for the lights here, and then this is the power for the lights here. They're all in the same connector. So if you wiggle this connector, if you do it, you know, get it in there right, all the playfield lights come on and work. And when they do, the same player shoots again light goes out. But if it's a little loose, where I guess this isn't getting the power to it, for whatever reason, the same player again light comes back on. I don't know why it would do that. Let me see if I can get it to replicate what it was doing. You wouldn't think that well, so the whole thing was a bad connection. I don't understand why though that would backfeed that one light. I've seen them do that before, but I never can figure out what in the world is the deal. Let me see if I can wiggle it and get it to do it. Maybe one of you experts out there can tell me why it would do this. So that's that. That makes sense. It's not doing it now, so I must have fixed something. I don't know. Oh well. Well, it ended up being a bad connection. Everything's cool now. So I guess if you get light issues, unplug and replug the Jones plugs. Alright, so enough of that nonsense. Let's start checking out the back box. So I'm going to, the first thing I'm going to do is clean these relays down here. And then we'll take apart the stepper unit and see how it looks. See what we can get going. Okay, so I carefully went through and cleaned all of the little switches on the relays just like we did in the bottom. You know, we're going to get them all doing their thing, and whenever they close, and whenever they open. Everything's great. And then I took the big wheel off the side of this stepper unit, and on this side there was a couple switches to clean, but nothing major. I dropped a little bit of oil down in the shaft of this, right? Because it's metal on metal, so you want to lubricate that. So put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil in there. And then the rivets on the board, I cleaned with a little bit of really mild sandpaper just to kind of brighten them up a little bit. And then I put synthetic grease on it. This stuff's great because it's dielectric. That's what you want. That's the good stuff. Okay, and then I'm going to put the wheel back on. Oh, I cleaned the little feet of the wheel too. Those get real grimy. So now this is clean. That's clean. It's oiled a little bit. And so we're going to put it back on and see if the thing steps like it's supposed to. Okay, so the little legs are lining up with the rivets well. And then we're going to check and see if she steps up, hopefully. Second step, third step, fourth step, and that's as far as it goes. And then this one should reset it. And then you kind of need to make sure that it will reset from any of the steps. So second step, see if it'll reset. Yeah. Third step, it'll reset. And I didn't do that one violently enough. Sometimes if you try to do it really slow like this, it won't really do it. Because that's not how the game does it. The game does it violently. It pulls the coil in very fast. So it's more like that. I was holding it at that time. So you just want to make sure it's all moving freely and everything. If it's not, you need to oil and clean the shaft going through, or you need to clean the face better, or you got to get it where it moves smooth though. Okay, so that one's doing its thing. This one up here, it's basically the same thing except there's no Bakelite board there. Right, and just a few switches to clean, make sure everything smooth, moves freely. And then this is the old style with the spider. Now if you look, you can see where the grease is being rubbed around where the legs of the spider travel. But then if you look at the actual little copper traces there, see how they're brighter down there? It's because somebody's already messed with it. Somebody's already sanded it slightly and got it all, you know, a different color basically from where they were working on it before. So somebody's been through this thing at one point, but it's been a long time. So I'll take this spider off, and then it's the same thing basically. Now this one, since it only has one coil, it only moves in one direction. It doesn't reset. It just keeps going around. Right? This one down here, since it resets, when it gets back to where it's going, you have this switch here that it opens up. So when it steps up off of that, the two switches are closed. But whenever it resets, it opens both of the switches because it has this little bar here. But this one up here doesn't have anything like that. It just goes around and around and around and around. No switches at all. You can see too where somebody has replaced the coil. One of the lugs has fallen off there. I'll have to put that back on. But yeah, the thing's been worked through before at some point. So I'll take that spider off and clean that up, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, so it cleaned up really good. Look at it. Look at it stepping through its steps. You kind of want to make sure too that the fingers kind of line up with the tracks. So you might have to move this whole assembly. There's a couple screws that hold it in place. But if it's off a little bit, it's probably been hit and it's moved a little bit, and you can usually just move it back with your hand, because it's, you know, it's usually got a little bit of play in it. Okay, so we got that one, and then this one down here, the replay unit. Let me show you how that works. If you've seen any of our videos, you probably already know, or if you're a pinball person, you probably already know. But it's basically the same thing. You've got one here that whenever this goes in, it adds a credit and turns the wheel to make the number higher, right? And then every time you subtract a credit, this one goes in and it turns the wheel back the other way. right? So that's at 0. When it gets to 0, it presses this switch here. Look how dusty all this crap is. I vacuumed it all out, but I didn't get all the dust. I hate to hit it with canned air, but I might have to. This post hits this switch and opens it, and that switch is connected to a second one that it also opens, right? So that post, when you get to 0, pushes down on those switches and opens them. But I've simply bent them out of the way to where it can't ever open them, which means it's on free play, because you can't ever run out of credits. You can also do it by just connecting the two wires together. So if you put a jumper there and a jumper there, and then that opened that end of the switch, it wouldn't electrically disconnect the switch because it'd still be jumpered. But simple as that. Very, very easy to put it on free play. Any game. Okay, so we've got this stepper unit. We've got those relays. We've got the replay unit. We've got this stepper unit. I cleaned this is the plug that changes it from 3-ball to 5-ball. This is the plug that changes it from you get an extra ball to you get a replay, a free game. Clean those. So the only thing left up here, oh, and the Jones plugs we cleaned whenever we put all of the shrink tube on all of them, right? So all of them have been cleaned. The only thing left is we have the 16 score reels. So boy, that's going to be fun. Can't wait. Right? So I'm going to start in on those, and I'll show you a little bit about them as I go through. So here's the front of all the score reels before we clean them. Most of it looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and replace all of the light bulbs, though, while we have the back glass out. And we'll see if we can get all of those working. Okay, folks, I've been working right through them. I'm down to the 16th one. So, I've taken it all apart. So here's what you got underneath. There is this PCB that has little contacts on it that it gets all dirty. So I've cleaned it all up, and then I've put in some of the synthetic grease on it. Okay. And then there's this little cam here that follows around in a track on the bottom of the score reel. So it goes in that track. And you can see that the track is manipulated certain ways, whereas the reel spins, it makes this do different things. And the whole point of this is to move these blades back here to do different things, right? And then you have this little thing here that when in place sits about like that. And it's got a little step on it, or a little shoe on it, I'll say. And if you look up in there, it rides in there, right? So the purpose of it is so that when the wheel turns, it can't go backwards, because this has a spring on it. So as it turns, it lifts up and then plap, falls back down on the next step. Plap, plap. So the score reel can't turn backwards because it's hitting that, right? And then at the let's see where the other one rides. At the very top, on that same, on those same steps, over here, you have a plunger. So it goes in like so. Bop, 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 bop. And rides in a track. And there's a spring that goes from here to here to make it pull back out. So so it pulls out like that, and see the little step on it. So whenever this gets power, the machine tells it to pull in, it pulls this back, and it comes over kind of like that, like it just did on me. See how it moved over the rounded top? And then it grabs the next step, and the spring pulls it back forward, and that hits the step on the reel and makes it go forward. So we're on 8, now we're on 9, now we're on 0, now we're on 1, now we're on 2, and it just keeps going around and around. And it's just a neat little machine that its whole thing is to make that spin around. Now when this coil pulls back, you can see that it opens a switch back there. So it opened it. They have the power to the coil running through that switch. So that once it is turned on, it's held on by the relay, actually the point relay, is held on by this switch. And so like say if this is the 1 point unit, the 10 point unit, I'm sorry, it's held on by that switch. So once it's turned on, it stays on because that switch is connected. And then the only way it breaks is if this plunger goes all the way back. So it kills the power to it, which allows it to go back out. And when it goes back out is when it actually turns the reel. So you just got to get them clean where they're all working good. But on these particular ones, the Williams ones, basically you just need to get this all cleaned up. Put the synthetic grease on it so that these little pins are connecting as they should. And one of them rides on that center groove, which gives it the power or the ground or whatever it is. And then the other one rides on the outside ones so that it can tell where you're at. So what is the purpose of those little contacts? The only thing that it does is it works on the match. So this is the 10 unit, right? So because of that, the machine can tell if it's at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, or 0, which is used for the match. So I don't know if I've got the match. Did I find where the match adjustment is? How to turn the match on. I thought I did at some point. Yeah. We're dark. There's a connector right here that if you move it, the match is either on or off. Because in some places it was illegal. But if the match is on, at the end of the game, this reel will be sitting at like it may be on 30 points. And it can tell that it's on 30 points because of this little board. So if it's on 30 points and the match unit is on 30 points, is this the match unit? I believe that's the match unit. If it's on 30 points, then you have a match and it gives you a free game. But if your score is on 20 points, well then you're on another one of these plates that's de-energized and nothing happens, right? And then they also need to know if you beat the high score. So if you beat the high score, you win a free game. So the way they can tell that is the same way. They have the same board on what would be the thousands and the 10,000s. So the reason they have both of those is in case you have it where the high score, you win a free game at 56,000 points or whatever. Well, they need to know if you're on 56,000. They don't need to know it for scoring. All they need to know it for is to win a free game. So if it's on your home machine and you don't need the match turned on and you don't need the high score turned, the where you win a free game if the score's high enough, if you don't need that turned on, then you don't really need these boards to be clean. They may still work or they may not, but you don't really need to clean them. But we try to get them as clean as we can. So, but more importantly than these boards is these switches back here. You need these to open at the right time and close at the right time. So I'll put it back together and show you how it's supposed to be. Okay, so I've got it back together. You can see what I'm talking about. See the little steps down in there? And see how that little hook one is on that? So every time it turns, that little thing pops up. See it? So because of that, you can't move the wheel backwards. If that's not on there right, whenever you do that, this thing will like land in the middle of a number and stuff and just messes it all up. And so on the other side, when the plunger goes in, it might be easier to see once it spins. See, it's going back. It snaps over one of the steps and then pushes it forward. Pretty cool, huh? So when the plunger goes back, you see it open up the switch. See? All right, and then on these three switches, Let me get it back to a good starting spot. Okay, so we're on number 1 right now. So see how the top one is closed and the middle one is closed, but the one on the right, which is the bottom one, so the left one's the top, middle, the right one's the bottom one. The right one is open. So it rides like that through most of the numbers. So this is, we're on 1, we're on 2, we're on 3, we're on 4, we're on 5, we're on 6, we're on 7, we're on 8. See how nothing moved? So it cannot tell if we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. It doesn't even need to know. It does have that board where it can tell, but it doesn't have a computer that's keeping track of it. It's just, that board is just there so that the electricity will be hooked up in the right spot at the right time just to do the match. So nothing else is wired through it on this particular one. So it can't tell for any kind of scoring or anything like that, right? So it doesn't have any idea of what number we're on, even for any kind of way to analyze it or anything. So it has no idea what number we're on. So now we're going to number 9, and it needs to know if we're on number 9. So watch what happens when you go to number 9. Watch the right switch. Right? It has that switch closed. So the next time this one gets a point, it will turn it over to 0, but since that switch is closed, it will also send it through that switch over to the next reel and make it have an extra one. So that's how it carries over the 1 to the next reel, right? So this is how it is on 9, and then whenever it gets to 0, all of them are open, even that middle one that looks closed. It is open if you look. So the reason that those open at 0, the one on the left and the one on the right, is because whenever the score reset relay starts pulling in, it's trying to reset all 16 of these. It will keep doing that, which is basically sending power to all of the score reels, right? Just constantly pulsing power to them as the score motor turns. So the score motor turns, and it's got a little bump on it, and it's sending power pulses through the score reset relay, which is staying on, right? So all of these are going pap, 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 but much faster because the score relay is turning around. So it's more like it's that quick, right? And it's doing it to all of them, okay? But when this one gets to 0, it's sending it through that switch. So when this one gets to 0, the switch opens, and it doesn't send this one a pulse anymore. Because if it did, it would turn to 1. And they want it to stop at 0. Right? So since it turns to 0, this actual reel will no longer turn. It stops at 0. But what if this one's not at 0? This one's still at 3. Well, the reset, the score reset, still needs to go. It still needs power, right? So you need some way for the score reset to know that all of them are at 0. So you know how they do that? They make it where the other switch always power. I said that one goes to the reset, one goes to the score reset. That's wrong. I figured it out, remembered it just now when I was talking about it. It needs one of them to turn off this coil on the particular relay, and then the other set of switches is on every single one of them as well, but doesn't turn off that particular score reel. It turns off the reset one. So as long as any of these are not open, are still closed, the score reset relay will stay on and keep doing its thing, keep doing its thing, keep doing its thing. So it's got 16 different switches that keep it turned on, plus the reset relay that turned it on in the first place, right? So it's got at least 17 different ways that it can be pulled in. But whenever all of these fall out, it will stop the score reset relay for, I think it's going to turn off the reset relay. It's all in the schematics, you can see it. But whenever all of these are open as well, all 16 of them, not only will they not pulse, but it will kill the relay that's telling it to pulse so that it can get to the next part of the startup. Because if you didn't have it set up like that, all of these would get back to 0 and stop, but that relay would how would it know? How would it know that they all stopped? it would still be spinning the power. You know, I mean, it's dumb. They have to figure out a way to give it feedback. Hey, all 16 reels have got the 0, so you can move on to the next part of the reset sequence. And so the way it does it is with that second switch. If none of those switches are still connected, then it knows, hey, they're all at 0. Let's move on to the next part. So all of these, hopefully, are working great. And they kind of snap back in place. A little tricky to get them in there if you haven't messed with it before. But eventually, if you're lined up right, I'm not. If you're lined up right, it'll snap in place. So that's all of the score reels. So now I guess we need to hit the start button. I have left them all not set on 0, except for the fake ones. The fake ones are still set on 0. But I've left them all off of 0 so that whenever I start the game, it's going to try to reset all 16 of them back to 0. And hopefully, if I've got them all clean and adjusted right, that will happen. But we'll try it out. Okay, folks, we left it overnight. And Joe has painted the frame for us because we're working on the back glass and we're working on the playfield at the same time. So I can't show you the back glass or the playfield because it's in the middle of being repaired. We're doing all the videos at the same time. But hopefully, these score reels will reset. So let's see if they all go back to 0 and not a step further. Hopefully. Bam! Just like that. What do you think about that, man? Aren't I good at that?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. All right, so there you go, folks. So we think we got it. I'm going to do another one where we do, you know, final repairs and stuff, and we're going to do one on the back glass, and we're going to do one on the playfield. So leave your comments below. We're getting there. This is going to be a long one, though. Leave your comments below. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you, and we'll show you the playfield next time. Oh, I almost showed it to you. Oh, no, you cheated. You don't get to see it. I could show you like a little part of it, maybe. Nah, I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to show you if I can hold this camera up. Oh, the camera's so heavy. I don't know if I can hold it up. Oh, yeah. So we'll see you on the next video. Make sure to, we appreciate everybody that's been using our Amazon links. Thank you for that. So if you don't know about that, down below we have links to Amazon. If you go to Amazon to buy anything and you use our link first, it gives us a little tip for it. And also we appreciate everybody that's been checking out our brother channel, My Brother Donnie. Have you been watching My Brother Donnie, Matt?
Yep.
All right, he's been watching. Donnie went to the beach a couple days ago and filmed all of the Christmas tree lights. You probably didn't see that, the Great American Christmas Tree Light thing at the beach.
That wasn't up last time I checked.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. And we're working on the grocery store.
Yes.
It's pretty cool. We've been doing all of that. So go check that out. I'm over there with him a lot of the time, and he has always got something interesting going on. But one of the things that we're doing is we bought this old grocery store, a little tiny one though. But that's what it was, so I'm not going to call it like a Quickie Mart or anything like that. It was a grocery store. Like all the old timers have told us, it's a grocery store. It's in a little tiny town, so it's a small grocery store, but it was a grocery store. At an old dilapidated building, we've been fixing it up and getting it ready to rent so we can revitalize the town. So go check that out if you haven't. We're over there having a good time. It's My Brother Donnie is the name of the channel, and he's literally My Brother Donnie. So we will see you on the next video. Next time, maybe we'll work on the playfield a little bit. See, maybe yeah, next time we'll do the playfield. All right, leave your comments below, and we'll see you on the next one.